This video is designed to help you start using Peardeck with students if you have not used it already. So all of the 8th grade math lessons are in Google Slides, and all of those slides are designed to be used with Peardeck if you would like. So if you've never used Peardeck before, the first step is going to be to go to peardeck.com/Google Slides, and then you're going to scroll down and click Get Started. And once you click Get Started, you'll have an option to choose right here. You'll choose Teacher and Sign in with Google. And then it will open you up into the Peardeck kind of home screen, which looks like this. So now if you're about to start a lesson, one option for how to start the presentation is to stay in this home screen and scroll down, and then you can present a file from Drive. This will only work with your own files. So if you're presenting something from our shared drive from the curriculum, you're going to want to make a copy first, and then you'll be able to choose your copy here, and you have the option to either start a live lesson for synchronous instruction or a student-paced lesson for asynchronous instruction. So I'll talk about the synchronous example first. Let's say you want to start a live session. It's going to look like this. And once it launches, students have the option to go to joinpd.com and enter the code that it's showing. Or you have the option to click Give Students a Link, and you can just paste that into the chat box in your Google Meet or your Zoom, or wherever you're doing your synchronous instruction. And so everything in this page will be what you're sharing in Google Meet or Zoom. And then you'll also have kind of like a dashboard to see what students are doing, and that's where you're going to click Open Teacher Dashboard. So you'll want to have this in a separate tab from the one that you're sharing with students, and this is going to be how you're going to see where students are in the lesson, what they're thinking, how they're responding to each of the slides. So now I'm back at the screen that I'll be sharing with my students, and whatever slide I have this on for the live lesson option will be the only slide that students can access. So while students are working on the introduction/launch, I'm sharing this screen with what they should be working on. It'll tell me at the bottom how many people have responded. So since I'm the only fake student in my class right now, I have 1 of 1 students have responded. But in your regular class, you'll have something like 25 students, and it'll tell you how many students have responded to the slide that you're on. So on one side of your screen, let's say you have this that you are sharing with students, and then off to the side for yourself, you'll be able to see what students are working on. So I'll show that now. So this is the tab that I have off to the side that I'm not sharing with students. And you can see I only have 1 student here, but again, you'll have all your students' responses here. And you can also see, I'll move myself a little bit so you can see, the class roster with how many students have joined. So here I can see student thinking. I can do a little star to save that answer for myself for later. I can leave feedback for this student by clicking the little speech bubble. And then here I can hide that response in case, and I'll show you this in just a moment, in case I want to show responses and for some reason I don't want that student's response to come up. And then here at the beginning of every Peardeck lesson, students choose how they're feeling, so you can get a sort of check-in there as well. So when I joined as a student, I put myself in the middle, and that way you have an idea if a student is, say, not answering a slide, they might also have the red sad face there, and you know, okay, maybe I need to give a little feedback to check in with that student before I give something about the lesson. Just a couple more things to notice on this slide. You can also change the layout if you prefer to look at one student at a time. You can go through the list and scroll down. You can look at everybody in a grid. You can overlay, which I wouldn't recommend doing on a slide like this, but if you did something like having students sketch a graph, the overlay option is cool to then share with students so they can see where the majority of students responded. Finally, on this screen, you have an option to lock screens. So you can lock students from being able to continue editing if you want to make sure they're focused on what you're saying. And you also have that option on the screen that you are sharing with everyone. So if you're in this screen and you feel like attention is kind of waning, you can always click lock screen here as well. If you want to share somebody's thinking, like I mentioned before, you can click this show responses button. And since I'm the only student in my class right now, it's showing my response, but you would be able to prepare which students you want using the star tool and the grid versus student by student option in your teacher dashboard that I just showed. The final thing I want to talk about here for synchronous instruction is that you can always add a new prompt. So let's say I notice in the student work that students are very stuck on this problem and they're not sure how to start. Maybe I would add a new prompt for during class that would ask students like, how comfortable do you feel with this problem right now? And sharing your thinking. And then maybe that would help me choose which student to present out. So these are all different questions, types of questions that you can insert during class if you notice that you need something extra from what you have in the slide deck. So I'll close that window. And then right here, you have a couple different options for how to change the type of instruction you're doing. So you can switch to student paced at some point if you are moving into the Explore section and you want students to be able to move through the slides at their own pace. You can click here, and then you can end your live session also in this section.